Good evening, you're watching No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Fact-checker and Alt News co-founder Mohammed Zubair has finally walked out of jail this evening after the Supreme Court gave him bail in all the cases he's facing and ordered his immediate release. The Supreme Court bench, headed by Justice Chandrachud, said the power of arrest must be used sparingly and clubbed all the FIRs against Zubair, transferring them to Delhi from Uttar Pradesh. Zubair was first arrested by the Delhi police on the 27th of June for a 2018 tweet which was a screen grab from an old Rishikesh Mukherjee movie. Subsequently, 6 FIRs were filed in Uttar Pradesh, all largely accusing him of disturbing religious harmony. The court today said there was no justification for Zubair's detention and that there was no reason to prevent his liberty. The UP police, which has set up an SIT or a special investigation team to probe all the FIRs against Zubair, has also been disbanded by the Supreme Court today. The Supreme Court has also extended Zubair's bail to any future cases as well. During the hearing, the Uttar Pradesh government asked the Supreme Court bench to stop Zubair from tweeting in the future, to which Justice Chandrachud said a firm no. You cannot tell a journalist not to write. If he violates the law, then he is answerable for that, said Justice Chandrachud. This order by the Supreme Court today is hugely significant at a time when there have been a spate of arrests against people for their social media posts, particularly those critical of the government. There was also the case recently of actor Ketki Chitale, who spent more than a month in jail for a Facebook post about Sharad Pawar. And just today, filmmaker Avinash Das has been arrested by the Gujarat police for sharing a social media post of a photo of Home Minister Amit Shah with bureaucrat Pooja Singhal, who has been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. Only recently, the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, said that hasty and indiscriminate arrests, the prolonged incarceration of under-trial prisoners, along with difficulty in getting bail, needs urgent attention. He had described the process as the punishment, adding that nearly 80% of India's 6 lakh inmates are currently under trials. Another Supreme Court bench had recently observed that arrest is a draconian measure resulting in the curtailment of liberty and should be used sparingly, calling on the government to bring in a separate bail law. The bench in that case had said that in a democracy, there can never be an impression that it is a police state, as both are conceptually opposite to each other. Joining us first on No Spin tonight is the woman who got Zubair out on bail. Vrinda Grover, advocate of the Supreme Court, joining us live and exclusive on NDTV tonight. Vrinda Grover, thank you for joining us. What a legal fight it's been for you, Vrinda Grover, given the multitude of cases that Zubair has faced and the harassment he's gone through over the last month or so. Take us through how significant today's order actually is.
I think it's a very important order, not only for Zubair, whose liberty has been restored. And the Supreme Court has on an earlier occasion said that even a single day's incarceration without cause is a day too many. And we know that Zubair has been inside for 23 days over a spate of arrests that ensured the evergreening of his custody, particularly in the state of UP. Old cases revived, new cases lodged, all on tweets, none of which actually make out any offense whatsoever, either in the Indian Penal Code or any other statute. So this was the abuse of the statutory power of investigation that the law endows on the law enforcement agency and the police. To that extent, the Honorable Supreme Court's order today not only brings personal relief to and restores the liberty of Zubair, but also reaffirms our rights, our guarantees both of personal liberty and of freedom of speech. This is not about dissent. This is about free speech. I may say something that somebody may dislike. I may say something that is inconvenient. I may point to the truth and to the facts which somebody may wish to mislead the public on. And if that is how in a democracy we engage, and that cannot be criminalized. And the idea is actually not just to target Zubair. Of course it is to target Zubair for his work, but also to send a chilling effect in society, to silence all of us as citizens. And the Supreme Court has said our rights are supreme. And this kind of abuse of power and incarceration, which the court described as vicious cycle, will not be countenanced.
Vrinda Grover, it's also significant, as I was pointing out in the introduction, that the Supreme Court has been talking a lot recently about the process being the punishment, the need to have bail as the rule and jail as the exception. And we heard that from the Chief Justice of India, no less, just a few days ago. The issue here is that message really going down to the lower judiciary? Because in a case like even Zubair's, it shouldn't have taken him 23 days to get bail.
You're absolutely right. It shouldn't have required an intervention by the apex court. The subordinate judiciary has the power, the authority given by law to grant bail in these cases. All the offenses against him, the maximum punishment is 3 years. The Supreme Court has said don't arrest in such cases. Why is the subordinate judiciary not exercising that power, not just in one state? But in all states of UP, not only was his bail being dismissed, the police is seeking remand. For what? Just because you've arrested somebody, can you now intimidate him, muzzle him, silence him, harass him? This is when the subordinate judiciary is the first frontier where civil liberties, freedoms must be protected. I think it is time, and particularly in light of what has been said by the Honorable Supreme Court, both through its judgments and outside the court, that the guidelines need to be laid down. Guidelines on arrest are violated by the police with impunity and brazenly. Despite the Supreme Court having passed yet another judgment in Satinder Singh until just recently on arrest, the court now needs to lay down guidelines also for the subordinate judiciary to ensure that liberty is protected.
Right. Vrinda Grover, the other interesting thing today in court was, when the UP government wanted a gag order on Zubair, and Justice Chandrachud said, you can't gag a journalist. Unless he breaks the law, then the law will deal with him. Very important comment there, again, by Justice Chandrachud.
Absolutely. So what the UP state tried to do through its various FIRs, not succeeding there, then made a last-ditch attempt to actually silence the man who points to the truth and facts. And the Honorable Supreme Court, of course, did not at all allow such a thing. After all, a man has been granted bail. He has not been held guilty of anything. He has not even been charge sheeted for anything. Why will he not continue to exercise all the rights that every citizen in this country enjoys? To say that a gag order be passed at the time of allowing bail, it would be a complete miscarriage of justice here.
Finally, Vrinda Grover, what I'm talking about tonight as part of a bigger debate is this whole worrying trend of arresting people, for their social media posts. I was talking about Kepki Chitale, the actor who spent almost 6 weeks in jail in Maharashtra because she said something about Sharad Pawar that they deemed offensive. You have the case of Avinash Das, a filmmaker, well-known filmmaker, who's been arrested by the Gujarat police today because he put up a photo of Amit Shah that they found offensive. Do you think that today's order would serve as an example to the lower judiciary where these cases are concerned, or do we still have a long way to go? Because, look, political powers are going to misuse their authority, it's clear, irrespective of who's in power.
Absolutely. All political parties abuse this authority and power, and we see this across states. There's no denying that at all. What I think is important at this juncture is that both the police and the state have to heed what the Supreme Court is saying, not once, but reiterating it in judgment after judgment. Today, what we are seeing is who is deviating from the rule of law, who is not adhering to what the Supreme Court is saying. It is the government, the political executive, and the police. They have to be made answerable, and citizens are actually facing the wrath of the state. The subordinate judiciary needs to step in promptly and immediately ensure just because the police ask for remand cannot be given. Is it necessary? Is it desirable? Is there anything of relevance? You can't just seize my devices for the asking. You can't take me from one city to the other or interrogate me ad nauseum when there is a tweet in front of you and there is nothing more to be done in that case. The subordinate judiciary must exercise the power of granting liberty. And for this, perhaps if more detailed guidelines are laid down, and police officers who make these kind of omnibus, vague remand applications, all manner of things are said while opposing bail, none of which has any bearing on facts or on material before the court. Surely the courts must put brakes on this, and perhaps guidelines for the subordinate judiciary to ensure that there is no curtailment of personal liberty. So, writing social media posts is a right. In digital age, we will exchange information across media platforms.
Absolutely.
The idea of hurt and offense needs to be explained to everyone, including the political leadership.
Absolutely.
Hurt and taking offense because I don't like something, well, in a democracy, then that is what you learn to live with. That is actually where you grow by hearing another person's viewpoint, which you disagree with and which you dislike. And the signal must come from the political executive.
Vrinda Grover, more power to you. Thank you so much for joining us on NDTV tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi.
Well, joining us on the program this evening now, Ketki Chitale. I was talking about her. She's the actor who spent her own agonizing 6 weeks or so behind bars for her social media post about Sharad Pawar. Supriya Srinath from the Congress is with us tonight, and Mr. PKD Nambiar, political analyst and supporter of the BJP, joining us as well. Ketki, I just wanted to come to you first. How do you feel today when you hear the Supreme Court order? You know, you yourself went through such a terrible ordeal, having to spend all those weeks in jail.
First and foremost, I would like to correct few things because I've been reading the headlines that were going on. You wrote that I was arrested on the 15th of May. Well, I was arrested on the 14th of May. And the headlines also went that there are 15 cases against me. Well, no, the correction is there are 22 FIRs against the same post, which people misinterpreted as it was against Mr. Sharad Pawar, which it isn't.
Okay.
Now coming...
Yeah, go ahead. We'll make the correction. Yes. Sorry about that.
It's fine. Now the thing being regarding me and Zubair. Zubair had received a notification from ROC on the 22nd of June 2022 regarding his several violations of provisions of the Companies Act 2013 under the section 447, 448, 449 and or other relevant provisions under the Companies Act 2013, because Alt News, which is the child of Pravada Media Foundation, and Pravada Media is registered as an NGO under Sections 8 Companies Act. Now, an NGO apparently is, I don't know, how does a journalist or a media company come under as an NGO? What charity are they doing? Is money laundering a charity?
I'm sorry, sorry, Ketki, you just spent several weeks in jail on a frivolous allegation. And no, but I'm just saying the principles here are of personal liberty. Nothing has been, one second, Ketki, nothing has been proven against Zubair. These are all allegations. And the Supreme Court has taken a firm stand on that today. So are you saying that your arrest is not justified, but if you don't agree with somebody else politically, which you clearly don't, then it's okay?
Zubair, do not color me in the same paint as Zubair. Because he has an NGO apparently. And if there is an NGO happening, the RCO has a right to know where the funds are going.
Forgive me, Ms. Chitale, but you're not a lawyer, nor are you a police officer, nor are you a Supreme Court judge.
You have invited me for my opinion.
You will forgive me if I will shut down any misinformation you try to peddle, because let's stick to the facts here of what has happened today. It's a question of bail. It's a question of
in the same color with Zubair.
He doesn't deserve to be out on bail today? Do you think the Supreme Court made a wrong decision?
Yes.
Okay, so you think the Supreme Court was wrong?
All of his FIRs have received bail, whereas all of my cases are still going on. I
Yes,
haven't received
but you're out
bail
of jail.
in all of the cases. And
You're out
all
of jail
my
and you shouldn't have been, K.K. Chitale, you
And
should
this
not have been in
fellow
jail
has
at all.
been going on and
I
on
think you're
and
missing the
saying
point here.
right.
You're missing the point here. A
I'm
lot of
not
people
missing the
found
point,
your,
ma'am.
if you could let me speak, Ketki.
With the same color.
Ketki, if you could let me speak. A lot of people found your posts offensive, but you did not deserve to go to jail for it. Similarly, in Zubair's case, a lot of people were not happy with what he was tweeting about, and neither did he deserve to go to jail for that. And the Supreme Court of India today has upheld that. So whatever your views may be on him personally or otherwise, it's just a matter of personal liberty. It's not something that should extend selectively, that it's okay for Ketki Chitale personal liberty, it's okay for Nupur Sharma, but it's not okay for Mohammed Zubair. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
So you can ask this question to your own self. Why has there been selective justice when it comes to Zubair and not me? Whereas there is.
Are you in jail? You already spent 6 weeks incarcerated unfairly. It was wrong, and you're out now, which is the right thing.
Money laundering. I do not have any money laundering cases against me. My phone, all my gadgets are still with the police and are still being investigated. When he was arrested,
he is also being investigated. I don't understand why you think that you're. I don't understand where you're coming from, honestly, when it comes to personal liberty. And I find it a bit rich, frankly, having been through the system, that you're... Anyway, I'm going to move on. Supriya Sheenet, you want to come in there? Supriya.
Firstly, Nidhi, I think it's a huge day.
Yes.
And that visual of Zubair walking out actually fills my heart with both gratefulness, but with a lot of remorse. I'm happy that he's out, and that sign of victory is very encouraging, and I hope he will continue to speak truth to power, because that's exactly the reason why they jailed him. But he should not have gone to jail in the first place. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is, let us not get carried away with money laundering, this, that. Let's understand what has happened here. The FIRs against him were for the post that he put out calling certain people hate mongers. And I will call them hate mongers 10 times over. If you are somebody wearing a saffron robe and threatening women to rape publicly, you are not a Hindu, you are not a saint, you are a damn hate monger, and that is what you will be called. But the hypocrisy of the mighty Indian state is such that the UP police doesn't just want Zubair to be jailed, doesn't just oppose his bail, they actually say he cannot tweet. Thank God for the Supreme Court to come down heavily and say a firm no, because that's what a journalist is supposed to do, as long as he does it in the realm of law. I do want to make a broader point here. I am personally against any violation of civil liberties. I think freedom of speech needs to be respected. I think somebody like Zubair is being penalized, is being made a poster boy to send out a message to stop voices of dissent. But I also, in public life, want to step back and make one more point. For all those people who tweet against us, for all those people who cross boundaries, it's all right to do so. We sign up for that when we come up in public life. But to abuse me, to threaten me sexual violence, to call me names, to make motivations that I've never had, to associate me and my leaders with terrorism is not going to be tolerated, because your civil liberty ends where mine begins. It's as simple as that.
Supriya, I have a simple question for you, Supriya. Do you think somebody like Ketki should have spent 6 weeks in jail for a social media post, no matter how offensive it was? Are you standing?
I stand by that statement that I made. I am personally against annihilation of civil liberties. But I think as somebody who is a popular public figure herself, she needs to be careful of the kind of things that she wrote about Sharad Pawar. He's a public personality himself.
Sure, but she didn't deserve to be in jail. She did not deserve to be in jail for it, right? Yes.
Let me please make a point. Mr. Sharad Pawar is a public figure. You are publicly saying, I hope he rots in hell. There may be consequences. People who believe in him may turn angry. You have to be careful about what.
Sure, but you don't deserve to go to jail for it. You don't deserve to go to jail for it.
Nidhi, I said first up, I am against annihilation of civil
Fine.
liberties. I personally don't support it. But I will say one thing. There is no way we can care what happened to this woman and to Mohammed Zubair. Mohammed Zubair paid a price because he was going through the mess that the BJP was trying to create and was speaking truth to power. There is no other way you can see this case. Everything else that came after was an afterthought and should be shunned in a dustbin.
PKD Nambiar, would you agree that this case today and the Supreme Court's observations, its order, are significant, and that across the board, we've seen people being arrested, like I said, in Maharashtra, there's Ketki's case, there have been arrests in Bengal, there's certainly Zubair's case, which is front and center now, Avinash Das by the Gujarat police. This needs to stop, doesn't it, Mr. Nambiar? The abuse of power by the police, by the state.
Every case which every order from a Supreme Court is of a very great significance, because this is the apex court of this country, and so we need to give importance to everything. I am I am never for jail. I am always for bail. That should be the norm. And in your initial remark, you said that the number of trial people are in the jail because as a trials is so huge in a country like us, which is not acceptable. So then we can talk about a judicial reform, police reform, and the government should become better governments, whether it is in the state and center and etc. That's all our wish list. But look at the contradiction. The contradiction today when we are discussing, Vinda Grover was talking about the personal liberty, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and etc. On the other hand, the Supriya ji is very, very clear. Zubair is the दूध का धुला हुआ और केतकी चितकाले उसको तो जेल में होना ही चाहिए.
She's not saying that.
Be punished.
I did not say that, PKD.
She didn't
Do
say
not
that.
put words
Supriya
into
ji,
my
don't
mouth.
go with the word. I am only saying
No,
you
I
have.
did not say
you
that. I did not say that. I object to you lying on camera. Don't lie.
Maybe I think Nidhi, I stand corrected. If she has not
I
said
did
so,
not- She
I
did
stand
not say
corrected.
that.
I think
That
let's
was my
leave it
first
there.
reaction.
I don't want to waste my time in arguing that. Let me come to the real point.
Yes.
Now, the real point is that when Ketki Chitkale or somebody else was jailed, we feel that the freedom of expression of her do not apply. Whereas Zubair, even in number of tweets, mock the Hindu gods or goddesses, that is his freedom of speech. What kind of a hypocrisy are we talking
But
about?
Mr. Nambiar,
I think
I've just
One
spent the
second.
last 10 minutes saying that Ketki Chitale
Nidhi.
should not have been in jail at all,
I want
and neither
to
I'm
should
only-
Zubair. So I don't know who
I'm
you're
not
talking
bothered
about.
with-
There has been outrage
can I-
over her arrest, and there has been justified outrage over his. The point actually we're making is the same, which is that nobody should be arrested for social media posts unless they do actually incite violence under the law, which has not happened in either case.
Nidhi, I think the larger question here is
complete
what
my
is the
statement?
mighty
I love your
Indian
show
state
because I get
scared
to-
of?
Okay, Supriya, just give Mr.
Please,
Nambiar a chance to answer that. Yeah, yes, Mr.
Sure.
Nambiar, go ahead.
What all I am saying is that the law will not be applicable in every case. I don't want it, every case will not be treated as the same way. It is even the Supreme Court has multiple times has said very clearly, even if the sections applied on each, the same are for two different cases, but every case will be treated with the facts of that particular case. If the Supreme Court has given Mr. Zubair a bail, that is the norm of our country, that is our judicial system. But this judicial system should also be, when a political person like a Supriya ji or somebody else or a Sharad Pawar should be able to make this uniform for everybody. If a girl like a Ketki has put I'm not talking about you because I remember you had given her a chance. I think NDTV may have been one of the first channels you had given her a platform to come and talk. I remember I was a part of that. But how many, the amount of media was support for Zubair and Ketki Chitale, it's something like you can't even imagine. So there is a huge difference. The people are, every opposition party, left, liberals are batting for Zubair, but that was not the case with Ketki Chitale. She came out, then the people were talking. There was no Vrinda Grover for her to fight on the Supreme Court. There was no prime time for the lawyer who fought for her for 15 minutes exclusive show. I am only talking about there has to be, in the public life, everybody should be treated equally. Every case can have a different
Can I
facts
please
in the
comment?
judicial system.
I
But
think
the
that's a fair
public
point.
discourse and
That
discussion
people can't be
Can I make a
outraged.
small point?
People can't be outraged about one case and show less outrage over another. But I think, having said that, like I repeat again, what happened to both of them was not right. People being arrested for their social media posts is wrong. In Zubair's case, though, I agree with Supriya, it's much more than that. And perhaps that's why the outrage was also much greater at a national and international level. Supriya.
I just want to make a very small point, Nidhi, and I think this holds true for governments that are acting against people anywhere in the country. Why is the mighty Indian state afraid of social media posts? Why is the mighty Indian state scared of a 21-year-old climate rights activist? Why is the mighty Indian state scared of a Rihanna sitting somewhere in the United States? They want to file cases. They make a mockery of the system. Do you think people get faith in judiciary and faith in the government when things like these happen? No. And it is translating into the number of people who are quitting this country. 9.23 lakh people have relinquished their Indian citizenship in the last 7 years. It tells you that the atmosphere in the country, the tension in the country, the communal strife is playing a reason.
Supriya, I'm out of time. I have to leave it there for the moment. But Ketki, I don't know you, but I do hope you realize that there are plenty of people who are speaking up for your liberty today as well. And I hope perhaps you can go back and reflect on how personal liberty is something that should equally apply to Zubair and others who don't deserve to be in jail. A lot of people are standing up for you and they're standing up for him. And your reaction, to his arrest was a little bit surprising. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good night.